everyone, welcome back to Beyond the Veil Tarot and Astrology. My name is Candice Marie. Thanks for joining me. I'll be your astrologer today. Hopefully you guys are doing well. Wanted to put out a video and talk to you guys a little bit about this upcoming Mercury Cazimi, where Mercury will be retrograding, coming into conjunction with the Sun in Taurus. Do me a favor, if you are not already subscribed to my channel, please click the button below. That way you are alerted as to when I have videos coming out. Make sure you give me a thumbs up and drop me a comment below and let me know how you're feeling with these energies. We're already in the Mercury retrograde. As many of you guys know, the Cazimi is that midpoint where if we don't already know what the retrograde is about, why things are coming back, why there's miscommunications, why things are a little bit wonky, generally the Cazimi moment is when we kind of figure it out. So it's hard to believe that in round about a week, we're already going to be halfway through. I've talked to you guys in previous videos on my monthlies as well as my Mercury retrograde video why this Mercury retrograde is so darn important. As many of you guys know also, we're going to be having a second eclipse that's coming in on May the 5th. That'll be a lunar eclipse in Scorpio. This retrograde is in direct opposition to that lunation. Full moons in Scorpio are intense enough as it is, but having a lunar eclipse in Scorpio that's going to be in opposition to Uranus and some planetary things that are kind of ricocheting, this is a really important moment to watch because likely it's going to give you some kind of insight or relational opportunity, because oppositions are relational, to better prepare for the lunar eclipse. Now, in particular, you guys are going to be feeling this day, maybe a day before, maybe a day after. Okay, so this particular transit, although I work with a 1-degree orb with the Cazimi, so I see Mercury retrograding needing to be within 1 degree away. Some people work with a smaller orb. Most of us who catch some of the sparkles from this Cazimi will see it on May the 1st, 2023. Now, I will include this in my horoscopes. I'll talk about it a little bit for those of you guys who missed this video. But I think it's an important moment because not only is it the halfway point in the retrograde, but it's also a part of a stellium that's getting ready to set up in the sign of Taurus. There already is with the Sun and Mercury and Uranus, but soon Jupiter will join and we are going to have a Taurus party in the skies. So it's a opportunity for everybody really to get their priorities straight. I think that's really what this Mercury retrograde is about. So if you're a little bit more astrologically sensitive, maybe you happen to be a Taurus sun, moon, or rising, or especially if you have any personal planets anywhere between like 9 and 12 degrees of Taurus, you're really going to feel this. It could be a sun, moon, rising. If you natally are a sun conjunct Mercury in Taurus, you may have this as a part of your solar return, right? So if your birthday is like within the first week or so of May, you're going to have this in your return chart, which is also a whole year of reevaluating and rethinking something. So definitely a time to take a look at your solar return chart. I'll take you guys through all the 12 signs as always, so don't worry about that. I'll do that at the end of my presentation, and I'll be pulling tarot because that's so important when we're talking about Mercury, because we oftentimes forget that Mercury is not just the messenger, he's also the diviner. So whenever we're looking into pulling tarot cards or divination or working with like stones or pendulums, that is all the terrain of Mercury. So we'll take a look at what the tarot has to say. So pay attention maybe the day before, the day of, or the day after, but the Cazimi itself is actually going to be setting up all day long, specifically on May the 1st. Now, something else that I want to mention is that with all retrogrades, planets retrograde, right? They go back to a certain point, they stop, they turn around, they go direct, and then they move forward. So oftentimes we'll see a planet cover similar terrain in terms of degrees. And you guys might want to make a note of the 2 other times that Mercury was in conjunction to these particular degrees. So I'd actually like to show you that because we've already gone through this here recently. If we go back in time and we take a look at what was happening right around like the 11th or the 12th of April. Okay, so just a few weeks ago. And it was happening actually right around the same time the Sun was coming into conjunction with Jupiter. So many of you guys remember everybody was touting that as like the luckiest day of the year. But you want to think back to conversations, documents, ideas, exchanges, things that you were saying, thinking about, or agreeing to, or things maybe that were breaking down, because this was also when we were in the Mercury retrograde shadow. I'm going to give you guys the Sabian symbol for this, but I just want to give you the date so you can go back and look at whatever is going on has been going on for several weeks, right? And with retrogrades, especially Mercury retrogrades, because they're closer to the sun, so we're going to feel the effects of it more strongly. Breakdowns in communications, right? Disagreements, misunderstandings. Also, this isn't a sign that is ruled by Venus, so we see more challenges in communications when it comes to money, agreements, paying for things, organizing our finances, but also disagreements in relationships and issues in regards to how we're spending money, our values, and issues relating to self-esteem. So the last time we saw Mercury at this 11 degree was around that 10th, 11th, 12th of April. We're going to see the Cazimi that's going to be taking place on May the 1st, maybe even into the 2nd. And then we're going to see after the retrograde, so this is post-retrograde, Mercury will return back and it's going to hit this 11 degrees again. It won't technically be out of the shadow period until it leaves 15 degrees, but it's going to hit that 11 degrees again right around the 26th, 27th of May. So you may see similar conversations that are kind of like volleying back and forth until we get to the end of May, and then we're like, okay, now we have made our decision. Keep in mind that Mercury is making this aspect in a fixed sign, right? So it doesn't want to change its mind. It doesn't want to give something up. It doesn't want to make sacrifices. It wants to have time to take it slow, because Taurus wants to take it slow. And it doesn't want to immediately or abruptly make a decision because it's actually retrograding short of Uranus. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens right when we get to the end of May, because if there has been some wrestling with, do I say something? Do I not say something? Do I do it? Do I make this abrupt turnaround and, change my mind, or, finally kind of come out with something? It can get a little haywire, especially this particular day when it hits 11 degrees again. The moon is going to be in a Mercury related sign. It's in Virgo. So we're reaping the benefits of all of the trines, but likely if you feel like you've been holding back in making like a purchase or a financial decision, changing banks, moving money around, changing some of your investments, this may be the time where people are actually doing that. And the end of May is wild for some other reasons. We've got like this Mars-Pluto opposition nonsense, and then the squares to the nodes and Jupiter. So know that, the last 10 days of May are very intense from a financial perspective globally, because we've got major planets that are going to be setting up a grand fixed cross in the skies, which does represent kind of like a turning point, and once again, grinding of the gears of not wanting to make changes. And then finally, we're going to see Mercury come out of the shadow period right around the time it hits 15 degrees around the 31st. But then a few days later, Mercury comes into contact with Uranus right around June the 4th. And when that happens, it's going to be that conjunction, which represents making a big change, right? Mercury-Uranus can be instinctual, intuition, it can be sudden strokes of genius. But I think with this conjunction at 20 degrees, it's indicating that it's the shocks that we're having from some of the changes that are taking place, some of the physical changes, how it's affecting our finances, how it's affecting our self-esteem, how it's affecting our planet, because it's also happening in an Earth-related sign. So I guess what I'm getting at is, if you want to be better prepared for the eclipse, for this conjunction at the beginning of June, likely you may see some kind of insight or message from Mercury right around the time of the 1st when we have the Cazimi. So let me take you back to that so we can look at that again, and then I want to talk to you guys a little bit about the Cazimi. Obviously, depending on how many Mercury retrogrades we have per year, generally, this is an aspect we have about 3 times a year. Sometimes if we get lucky, we have 4 retrogrades. We may actually have 4 Cazimis. But the Cazimi itself refers to a specific position of any given planet in the sky when it comes to the same degree and the minute as the sun. So the word Cazimi comes from the Arabic term Kazimi, which means as in the heart or in the center. So you guys want to think of the sun as like the king, right? He, you know, very Leo energy, you know, who's the ruler. And also that's where everything burns. It's giving all of the energy to the rest of the chart. So when Mercury retrogrades and conjuncts the sun in this position, right? Because generally Mercury retrograde can be a Mercury that has a difficult time assessing things or communicating or getting the ideas out. It can be a very deep, profound thinker. And when we have Mercury so close to the sun, within 10 degrees, it's under the beams of the sun. So it gets like burned up. It's like your mind is constantly on fire. So this is one of those moments where the Mercury-Sun conjunction is actually considered to be very powerful and very fortunate. And it's said to be a state of protection and strengthened by the solar energy. Now, the planet is able to express itself in the positive qualities with great ease and clarity and is believed to bring good luck and success to all areas that it governs. So you want to look specifically at where Taurus is in your chart, and then you may also want to take a look at a couple other places, like which houses Mercury rules. You're going to want to look at Gemini, you're going to want to look at Virgo, and we're going to talk a little bit more about a mutual reception. That gives me a whole other layer to this, because we do see that Mercury is in a Venus-related sign. We also see Venus in Gemini in a Mercurial-related sign. So even though they're not making an aspect by traditional terms, they're in what we call mutual reception. So they're saying the same thing. So I'll get to that in a second. Now, the duration of the Cazimi in general is very brief, okay? It can last traditionally only a few minutes, but personally, I've seen this be something where it's like, it could be, you know, a message falls out of your book bag. It could mean that you see a whole series of numbers that mean something. If you're into numerology, maybe you see a license plate. Maybe out of the blue, there's this email that pops up that you never saw, but it had a message that you really needed to hear. While the Cazimi is only going to be a few brief minutes, I think we might see stuff potentially all day. I've had moments with Cazimis in transit where it's been like major mental breakthroughs for me, where I've had opportunities to like make important decisions, start new projects, having like a whole stream of consciousness to like sit down and like write or create something that was like very important. So this might be a day to like have a pen and paper nearby, take some time to meditate, really tap in. If you want to work with tarot or other forms of divination, you can, especially if you're somebody who likes to work with like crystals or shell divination. If you want to work with like a pendulum, something physical, because it's going to be in the sign of Taurus. And astrologers often pay close attention to the Cazimi positions at time of birth in a birth chart or through transits because they're potent indicators as positive change and opportunity. So if you're one of those lucky people that has a Cazimi in your natal chart, it doesn't always have to be during a retrograde. It can be during a retrograde, but sometimes right around the time that Mercury is transiting very close to the sun, we can see some brief moments where we see retrogrades. Excuse me, we see Cazimis without a retrograde. I am born with one. Actually, I have the sun at like 1859 of Scorpio, and then I have my Mercury's like 19 and change. So it's within that 1 degree orb. And it just makes me super intuitive. So I like pick up on stuff all the time, and I'm always like noticing signs and symbols. Hence why I like to do this kind of work. So if you guys have one of those in your chart, I'd love to hear from you. Leave me a comment. Let me know how it plays out in your life. And once again, this moment that we're going to be having, it's the midway point to the retrograde. So we happen to have a retrograde that is very close to the North Node. So it's really important in helping us redirect conversation and ideas and getting things organized to go towards our collective future. We also have it in aspect to Saturn. So there are sextiles that have been happening to Saturn, which is really also helping us dig deep and meditate and reflect and kind of check in with our higher selves. So there's a lot of support from the cosmos and our spirit team. We also see that it's happening in the midst of eclipse season, okay? So eclipses, Mercury retrograde, we've got major planetary sign changes that are also taking place. We've seen, you know, Pluto go into Aquarius, we've got Jupiter going into Taurus. There's a reason why things feel so intense right now. So what I love for this is just like taking time out to just breathe, ground the body, check in with the self, and like really try to tap into some of the messages that are coming through. I love to use, you know, the Cazimi moment to be like, okay, if this thing is meant to happen, give me a sign. And I'm very specific about the signs that I'm looking for. And it has to be anything from like a particular bird to like a certain number to like a name. And I will find that sometimes around these Cazimi moments, like I'll get my confirmation if that's something that I need to move forward with. So if you guys need any support, you know, or confirmation from the universe, this is a wonderful way to use it as well. And reason to celebrate, right? Because we're halfway through the Mercury retrograde, so you gotta take the wins when you can. Like I said, this is happening in the sign of Taurus, and Taurus is ruled by Venus. So the dispositor for all of this Taurus energy, the North Node, the Sun, Mercury, Uranus, is Venus. And something interesting that's setting up, we're going to see this closer to like the 4th and the 5th of May, but it's still factored into this Cazimi, and it's also going to be factored into the eclipse that we're going to have in Scorpio, is going to be Venus in a square to Neptune, okay? So whenever we look at all of this energy in Taurus, the Sun, which is the action, the vitality, Mercury, the mind, Uranus is what we change. It's very clear that there's about to be some very significant physical or financial changes. For some people, it could be as simple as a different haircut or color, dressing differently, some changes to the body, maybe cutting back on what you're eating or focusing on bulking up, changes to beauty routine and aesthetic preferences in the sign of Taurus. As simple as like maybe changing the kind of colors that you like to wear, your perfumes, and like how you may smell, or the kind of materials that you use, because this isn't a Venus-based sign. And it's fixed, so it does not want to change. So what's interesting is that we have an opportunity during this Venus retrograde to go, maybe I'm going to change this up a little bit. It's not just about how I communicate. Maybe it's about you know, what I value, or my personal preferences, my food preferences, my style preferences. We can kind of be a little bit more flexible when we have a retrograde, because we're able to go back and change something up. So I could definitely see somebody or some people going back to old styles, old perfumes, old things that they used to wear or like. I could definitely see some people who are also looking at their finances and their resources and reevaluating what's in bank accounts and how much money they owe and what their budget is and all of that stuff. I think that's so tied to this Mercury retrograde, but you'll see even more when I talk to you guys about the Sabian symbol. So back to this mutual reception. The host of all of this energy in Taurus is Venus, okay? And we've got Venus in Gemini. So very social, needs like a lot of room to roam, really kind of feeling love and affection through witty banter and communication and changes of scenery. And Venus here actually really likes it in Gemini. I think that this is a fun placement to have, especially being second house to all of this Taurus energy. It's allowing us to diversify the way that we make money. So I think we're going to hear a lot more about people going, you know, money's tight, but you know, I've got a side hustle, or I'm bringing in a second income, or I'm trying to get creative about the ways that I can, you know, bring in more resources, or I'm making some changes with how I'm spending. But what I'm not wild about is this Venus-Neptune square that's going to be setting up really the whole week of the first week of May. When Venus, which rules the North Node, right, makes any aspects in the skies that can be challenging, like a square or an opposition or a conjunction to a heavy hitting planet, it impacts the North Node, okay? So one thing that I want you guys to know is that when we have this particular square that's taking place, there can be some heavy stuff that can be going on. I mean, Venus square Neptune can be overly idealizing, romanticizing things. Some things may look too good to be true and then ultimately not live up to the expectations or look nothing like the photos. This can also be an energy where there can be some issues with scams or some disappointments in love or romance. I think some of us could also be highly critical in some of our relationships right now because we have Venus that is in a mercurial sign. And with this mutual reception, like I said, even though they're not making an aspect to each other by traditional standards, they are speaking the same language. So if we look at Venus square Neptune, it's that, well, I said I love this thing, or I said I'm committed to this thing, but now I'm not so sure. or, you know, it looked really good, it sounded really good, but when I got there, it looked nothing like the photo, or they didn't look like their Tinder profile, or, you know, they ghosted me or they stood me up. And then we've got Mercury that is retrograding, coming into kind of, you know, being sandwiched between the sun and also Uranus. So it's this realization that's like, I have to be the one to make the change. I can't wait for other people to make the change or blame other people. I have to be the one to take responsibility and kind of reorganize something about my values, my resources, and just literal physical shifts that have to take place. So, you know, it's probably easier to have the Cazimi. The Cazimi in itself is a more positive aspect than the Venus square Neptune. I would say that probably all week we're going to see people really grapple with, you know, what do I value? You know, what can I afford? Where is my money going? I've seen, you know, just that coming up a lot out in the world. I've been talking to clients about it a lot. I recently got sucked into a show. I want to say it's on Netflix. I think it's How to Get Rich. And it's this guy who's like, you know, talking to all of these like couples about their financial issues, and goes through all of their bank statements, and they willingly give this to them. And they look at like their debt and their spending and their investments and their savings, and then starts talking to them about like, okay, you can't just evade opening your bills. You know, you can't just like overlook all of the student loans, and you can't just not come up with a plan. So he works with people through some of these issues and helps them realize like where their money is going, and that they're really kind of buying into this lifestyle that they can't afford in some situations, or maybe they're not being honest with their partners about what they're spending, or they have two different, you know, ways of looking at their relationships with money. So it reminds me so much of this Venus square Neptune, the aspect of not really being as forthcoming or clear, or being confused about relationships or values. And then at the same time, the Mercury retrograde is like well, I can't be so consumed with what I'm telling them or not telling them, or what they think, or how it looks if people, you know, see me, you know, go and file for bankruptcy, or, you know, sell my condo. I need to get right with like my own values. And that's very much like the Cazimi that's taking place in Taurus. So I think we're going to see this a lot. I would just recommend watch for overindulgence. Watch for being highly critical in relationships. And I think that physical financial changes are going to allow for more freedom. I think some people are going to start looking at their lifestyles going like, do we want to be having to work the X amount of hours and making all the sacrifices to, you know, be able to better afford the mortgage that we really can't afford? Do we need to be buying all of the things and getting locked into that lifestyle and not feeling like we have freedom to be able to buy a house, move, travel? You know, are you paying like an insane, you know, car lease, which like locks you into a situation for several years that doesn't like allow you to go and like see the world? So this is going to be a really interesting transit for a lot of people, I think, to really reevaluate some of these themes. Specifically, it's going to get even more interesting because there's going to be a mutable T-square. So we've talked a little bit about how the Venus square Neptune works, but at the time of this Cazimi, we see this moon that's in Virgo. So not only is it picking up all of this energy between the sun and Mercury, and it will be trining pretty much like, you know, the end of April through the beginning of May. I talked to you guys about how Sunday going into Monday is like a amazing, get everything organized, get everything together type period, even in spite of the retrograde. But it's picking up all of this energy, which is bringing back the conversation to what can I change? What do I value? And it's at an 11. So for me, it's like, what can I upend? What do I turn on its side, right? It's a Uranus degree. It's like, what do I totally release myself from? Can it have us feeling a little crazy and a little erratic on this day? Yes, I have definitely seen that. I've experienced that throughout this last month with this conjunction. And I would not overlook the potential for things really kind of going haywire with this conjunction. Even though I know it's meant to be positive, there's a lot of aspects going on here between the moon square, Venus, and also Neptune, making Venus the focal point. So it's basically saying like, you can try to avoid the hard conversations in relationships. You can try to avoid the, you know, situations with the bills that are overdue and haven't been paid. We can try to kind of deny that, you know, everything's okay and like ignorance is bliss, but it's not going to help. So I think that we really want to work with the moon, you know, trying to all of these placements, the end of April, going into the beginning of May, to really get down to the details and get really clear and be willing to do the heavy lifting and almost like the dirty work while the moon is in Virgo. Otherwise, we're going to get caught up in this drama of this mutable square, and Venus is going to be the focal point, and we're going to kind of realize like, well, you know, some of the commitments that we've made or that people have made to us, or some of the things that we have purchased or signed on for, maybe it's not necessarily going to make us as happy as we think. Venus being in an air sign definitely doesn't need all of the bells and the whistles physically that you would see maybe with Venus in an earth or a water sign. Venus in Gemini is happy if it has options, if it has choices, if it has freedom. It wants to be stimulated. And the second it's feeling like it's not getting that, and I think we're going to feel that with the square, it's going to be on to like greener pastures. So that T-square is a little uncomfortable. I would just say, you know, probably the day before is when you want to start working with this and you want to start going, okay, what can we fix? What's not working? How can we get things better organized? How can we sit down and really talk about coming up with a system or coming up with a plan? And Taurus is very much about our personal possessions. So whether it's things that you collect, food that you eat, money that's in your bank account, it's about what you physically possess. So it doesn't really matter which house it's going through. It's going to show itself in a different area of your life, but it's going to give everybody the opportunity to really reevaluate, I think, some of their personal resources, which I would be telling anybody anyway during a Mercury retrograde in Taurus and right before a lunar eclipse in Scorpio, because Scorpio is about crisis. It is about crisis being the catalyst for something. This is the final Scorpio eclipse from a series of eclipses that we've had for almost 2 years. So we will not have another Scorpio eclipse for about 9 years. We will not have the South Node in Scorpio for about another 18, almost 19 years. So I feel like this is the one that could really pack a punch. Go back in time, look at the eclipses that we were having in November of 2022. If you guys remember, we had eclipses that were conjunct Uranus, right? We had a Taurus eclipse that was conjunct Uranus or Saturn. We don't have that now, but we are going to have a similar eclipse where the moon's going to be in Scorpio in opposition to Uranus. Uranus is when the bottom falls out. So we're going to hear more about these banking crises. We're going to hear more about, you know, debt issues and liquidity problems and whether or not we can pay things off and if people are qualifying for loans and issues with mortgages. But you can use this Cazimi to get ahead of the curve and start kind of digging deep and really looking at what it is you value and what you no longer need to be possessing or spending money on. Now, it really makes sense when we get into the Sabian symbol. So even though the Cazimi is happening at 11 degrees, we're going to read 12 degrees because that's a degree that we round up to. And the Sabian symbol for 12 degrees of Taurus is a young couple walking down Main Street window shopping. The symbol shows an image of a young couple window shopping, imagining and picturing what they want for the future. Some things may be out of reach, but that doesn't mean that you stop from looking, planning, and dreaming what might be. Enjoy the interlude and then get back to your real life when you can take steps to make money or put your plans into actuality rather than just looking. Watch for jealousy and greed, which can rise up when it seems that there can be so much so close but out of reach. Realize that things in inner worth are more available to you right now. Watch for longing for things, consumerism and its allure, shared dreams, buying more and more and more, credit cards, finances, especially shared finances, and the future of its possibilities. Watch for denying inner worth because of material deficiency, trying to keep up with the Joneses, and those who want to look but don't want to commit, and watch for overspending. So it's like quite literal, right? It's quite literal. The Nicola book on degree theories, I kind of took a little brief review of that 11 degrees, and I was like, yeah, that sounds about right. I want to read to you guys the 11 degrees. Here we go. So he focused on just very simply, you know, the 1 or 0 through 29 degrees, and he broke them down for each individual zodiac sign. So what he says for 11 degrees of Taurus is that it's an Aquarius degree, right? Ruled by Uranus, kind of weird and wonky. You're going to see some of these things pop up. I have to tell you wholeheartedly, like half of these things on this list have come up for me over the last month, which is like wild. So let me know if they ring a bell for you too. Number one would be astrology, astrologers, astrological transits and stars, divorce, to get divorced, a common law marriage, or a separation. Explosion, explosive device, missiles, bombs, noises, planes, pilots, airplanes, electricity, electricians, electrical engineers, thunder, lightning due to electricity. High jumping, long jumps, high jumps, floors, skyscrapers, buildings, rapid speed, promptly, racing cars, Formula One. Genius, intelligence, inventions, everything new, modern, the latest style, a foreign body, organism, everything of artificial origin, suicide, nervous tension, stress, something causing stress, sudden, fast interruptions, being torn, stressful, nervous disorders, and the future and looking ahead. I can only laugh, just some of the stuff on this list. I mean, like, crazy thunder and lightning storms we've had out here in Texas the last week. Like so loud that I woke up several times in the middle of the night and I was like, I didn't know it was possible for thunder to be that loud. It's like, it seemed like it was right over the house. And I didn't realize that when thunder's that close, there's like this echo chamber, which is spooky because you just hear it continue to keep reverberating through the skies. Wake up in the morning to go do a load of laundry, throw my wet clothes in the dryer. The dryer doesn't work. Why? Because I assumed it probably got fried, then having to like call people to come out to the house and figure out, you know, where the electrical plug is and if we can reset things, right? Everybody was talking also about the 420 launch that we saw, the Elon's rockets that were being set up through SpaceX, which gets all the way up to the top because apparently it's like this super heavy rocket, gets ready to like turn around and then, you know, kind of blows up in the sky. And there's people from all over that came to like watch this rocket. Just really just interesting stuff to see some of this stuff play out. So, you know, I think it's kind of hard to not talk about stress and being nervous when we have the sun and Mercury so close to Uranus. I think that that's just going to be a theme. We're going to see that playing out throughout the rest of the month. But more importantly, I think this retrograde at 11 degrees, this Cazimi moment, is really talking about the future. And whether or not we physically can make the commitments to continue to move forward given the current circumstances in any way, shape, or form. So this is where you're really going to want to take a look at where the retrograde is in your chart in particular, because you may feel like there are things that are breaking down and you're like, that's it, I can't do this anymore. Maybe the back and forth of the retrograde is whether or not you make that actual decision. But it can also be about the nervousness and wondering about what the future holds and what decisions that we make. And the truth is we don't know, right? Many of us are listening to astrological forecasts because we want to be prepared for what may potentially come in the future. But the future is not necessarily set in stone, right? It's fluid. And when we're so fixated on the past and worried about the future, we're not present, we're not grounded, we're not able to make decisions in the moment. And that's the thing, is that if you're doing that and you're future tripping or stuck in the past, you're not able to consciously build your future. So you want to take time out when this conjunction is taking place and really ask yourself, like, okay, is this really the way that I want to see things go in the future? Is this showing me what the future may be like? And if that's the case, do I want to participate in this? Do I value this? Do I choose to stay? So we talked about the big themes, you know, the Venus-Neptune square, all of the potential of getting caught up and getting lost in some of the, you know, the deceptive kind of shady qualities, being overwhelmed thinking about the future and all the financial sides of things. I wanted to pull my Robert handbook out and give you like a very textbook specific on the Venus-Neptune square. So I'll read a little bit more about that. I'll then get into the 12 signs and I'll show you guys where this is taking place for all of the 12 rising signs. So Mr. Robert Hand talks about the Venus square Neptune. This transit stimulates your romantic imagination to a considerable degree, making you somewhat unrealistic in your dealings with loved ones. Usually this is not serious. This transit brings pleasant times and soft flights and romantic reveries. Daydreaming is also a characteristic of this transit, which is fine unless it interferes with necessity. In fact, this daydreaming tendency can manifest itself as an artistic inspiration. If you're an artist, creativity of high order can result. In relationships, though, you must be most careful. You can expect your loved one to live up to an impossible romantic ideal that no one could or should try to attain. Relationships must operate in the real world, but today you don't want to deal with reality. You'll feel real morals are disappointing. You prefer fantasies. In most cases, transit has a short effect, constituting a passing mood and not a source of real problems. But fantasy can become a permanent part of the relationship started today, and that's something that should be avoided. Any relationship that begins now should be experienced over a long period of time before making commitments. At its worst, it could signify a breakdown of a relationship, which could be damaging to your ego. But do not take your disappointment too hard. Relationships that are damaged by this transit do not usually have a basis in reality to begin with. So, you know, I mean, I think it's all coming back to still that dispositor being so connected to Taurus, and instead of getting lost and feeling like, well, it's, you know, they're disappointing me and they're not giving me enough, or what am I getting out of this? Or, you know, like kind of getting so consumed and caught up in that. And that's part of the Sun-Mercury conjunction. It's the I think, I need, I want, I feel. But in Taurus, it's what do I possess? So I could see a lot of people kind of spiraling about, well, do I leave the relationship because we're financially reliant on each other, or because of the debt, or because of the kids, or the dog, or the house, or the family? There can be a sense of being like, well, maybe the grass is greener, right? So some people may venture out because they need more, and you want to watch for that as well. Let me read you guys the Sun-Mercury, although the Sun-Mercury may not be as exact as he's going to say it, because it's going to be under a Cazimi. So I can't remember exactly what he said, but if it's something that's a little bit more negative, keep in mind that the Cazimi is only bringing a lot of those things to light, so you're made aware of it, so you can make better decisions. Oh, that's Mercury conjunct Mercury. Hello, can you guys tell Mercury's retrograde? All right, so here we go. So Mercury and the Sun. Let's see. It's such a big book. If those of you guys who don't have this book, you should. It's a great reference book. It's on my Amazon list underneath this video, if you guys check my links. All right, so that's Mercury conjunct Mercury. There we go. All right. This one? There we go. All right, Mercury conjunct the Sun. At this time, you must express yourself and thinking in every possible way. Your mind is clearer than usual and you feel more alert and mentally sharp. At the same time, you're very conscious of your purpose in any project you are engaged in, which enables you to express your purpose clearly to others. Just be careful that you aren't putting so much energy into communicating with others that you aren't allowing their communication to come back to you. Don't let your own subjective point of view blind you to others' points of view. You're able to express yourself with considerable vigor and make an impression upon others if you need to. Even when opposition gets heavy, you will stand up for your point of view, which will undoubtedly win the respect of those whom you disagree with. On a more trivial level, this day will be crowded with communications, whether by letters, phones, or personal conversations, and you will initiate most of these. Sometimes this transit gives a day of electric quality that makes you eager to get out and travel. You may feel restless and unwilling to stay in one place. Your mind wants to capture as much new material as possible, so travel if you can. You'll learn more quickly during this transit than any other time, and your eager mind will also attract the attention of someone above you who will get in touch with you about some matter which is important to you personally. In general, this transit favors communication with men rather than with women, but all communication is improved. So maybe it's a moment where there's like an opportunity for clarity. I'm hoping. That's generally what comes with this transit, but especially with this one, to potentially be more so better prepared for some of these rather hectic Uranus conjunctions, right? The hectic, you know, oppositions that we're also going to be seeing with the lunar eclipse on the 5th. All right. So as always, working with this again, the Lucid Dreams deck. I'm not affiliated. I just like it. And I like that it gives you guys so many keywords for those of you guys who are new to tarot. I'm sure most of you guys are really wanting to know who is going to feel this the most. Okay. So for starters, if you have any personal planets, that's going to be, let's say, between 9, 10 degrees of Taurus to about 12 degrees of Taurus. Sun, moon, or rising. Okay, so if your birthday is like the last day or two of April and like the first 5 days or so of May, you're going to be affected by this the most. Including if you have like a moon or a rising in Taurus in these degrees, or if you have any other personal planets here. Also, if you happen to be a Gemini or a Virgo rising, this will affect you because you are a chart that's ruled by Mercury. So when there's Mercury aspects, you're going to feel it more so strongly. And then also the fixed signs. So if you have any fixed sign placements, 9 to 12 degrees, other than Taurus, so Leo, Scorpio, and Aquarius, you guys are going to feel this as well, but you're going to feel this in the form of a square or an opposition, so it's going to feel a little bit more challenging, okay? As always, my predictions are always for Western astrology. I'm a Western astrologer. That is what I practice, and you're going to get the most out of my predictions by listening to your rising sign. That's going to tell you the house that this particular conjunction is going to be taking place in. If you're a Placidus user like me, I would recommend finding 12 degrees of Taurus in your chart, specifically which house that's going to be in. Yes, you might have to listen to 2 rising signs to get your prediction, but it is going to be the most accurate. That's why I like Placidus. I find that Placidus is the most accurate for transits. Yes, you can listen to your progress chart as well if that's what you want to listen to. I'm going to take you guys through the 12 rising signs. I'm going to show you where this is taking place. I'm going to give you a little bit of food for thought on what might be coming up for you. All right, so we're going to start first with the Aries and Aries rising. What's going on, guys? So you're going to have this Mercury Cazimi that's taking place in Taurus in your natal 2nd house. So this represents a changing or rearranging of money, resources, habits, schedules, maybe something you're eating, maybe how you're working, maybe how you are with money. Maybe it's more about organizing your resources. Now, the house is where it takes place. So that's why I say it's dealing with your money, because it's in your 2nd house. But Mercury rules your natal 6th house of coworkers and health and organization and habits. And it also rules your 3rd house, which deals with communication and travel and ideas, anything in regards to communication, sometimes siblings or vehicles. So for Aries risings, you guys may be thinking about, hey, do I need to have a conversation with somebody about money? Do I need to get a new app to organize some of my finances, or maybe save some of my documents, or save some of these receipts? I think also it can be a moment where there is like a reevaluation of what you possess. So if you're looking to sell something, give something away, if you're looking to declutter, this can be a wonderful time to do that. Specifically, if you're doing this like by maybe changing banks or changing financial advisors. Some of you guys may spend a little bit of money cleaning out your car. You might go, well, I don't want to go and spend the money to get it detailed. I'll do it myself. Maybe you're reevaluating your budget before you go and you buy a gadget because of Mercury's connection to your 3rd house. And you're trying to justify whether or not you make the purchase or not because it might help your productivity. But maybe you're waiting for a better price. You're waiting for like a sale. And some of you guys also just might be making changes in what you're eating, and you're looking to do that because you want healthier habits, or maybe you're contemplating saying, well, I want to go to the gym, but I don't want to spend the money on it. So, maybe I'll get a bike, or, maybe I'll start going for walks around the neighborhood. That could be another way that that's playing out. And I also think a lot of this is going to be about maybe investing in gadgets or courses or anything that's going to help with your self-expression, because we're seeing the Mercury Sun conjunction in the second. So some of you guys might be like, well, do I make an investment on something so I can learn to kind of start a new hobby, or I can, you know, start something new that could bring in some income, but I need to learn how to do it first. That could be another way that that could play out for you. Okay, so look for those messages, Aries. Let's see what the cards say for you. The card that I get for you is the Five of Pentacles. And I laugh lovingly because, you know, sometimes when we see a retrograde in the second house, it's like, I don't have the money, you know, I don't have the cash right now. I don't have the capability of paying for the flat tire or the screen that goes out on the laptop. So Five of Pentacles is financial loss, lack mindset, isolation, worry, and feeling shut out and out in the cold. And the truth is that if you're going through that, I would say, like, keep on going, like, come up with a financial plan. Sit down and really start writing down everything you're spending, see where you can trim the fat in some of your spending habits. Be mindful that wealth is a mindset, so that you can get stuck here very easily. If you're like, nothing's ever gonna get better, what's the point? This is how it's always gonna be. You know, if you're acting like that, you're going to make it more challenging for things to come in. And the whole purpose of the retrograde in the second house is to get you thinking about other ways that you could make money, or that you could generate income, or change your schedule, or change your habits, so it's easier to bring that in. Okay, so good luck, Aries. Let me know how that happens or how that plays out, I guess I should say. All right, so we got Taurus and Taurus rising, and you're going to be experiencing the Sun Mercury Cazimi in your first house. I got to say, I've got a couple Taurus rising friends in my life, and the few that I have spoken to throughout like the last week or two, everybody has just been telling me, like, I'm getting hit so hard with the retrograde, and with the eclipse in your 7th, and the squares and everything to your 10th house. So there's a lot of noise right now, Taurus, all right? And with the Mercury retrograde that's taking place in your first house, it's an opportunity to really stop, slow down, check in with the body, reevaluate, and ask yourself, what is important to me? What do I love? Mercury rules your 5th house, which deals with dating, it deals with creative projects, it deals with self-expression, talents, but also children. So this Mercury retrograde in your first house can be a time where you're like, my kids are just not listening to me, or I'm finding it really hard to express myself. I'm getting frustrated. Like, there's all this inner child stuff that can be coming up. Mercury also has its connections to your 2nd house of money. So it can also be a way for you to reevaluate where you want to invest your time, your resources, your energy. And there's just a lot of rearranging that's going on right now. Because you're also a Venus-ruled chart, you're feeling the Venus square Neptune pretty strongly. And I could definitely see with this Cazimi coming in, Venus is very strong in the 2nd house, okay? When the moon goes through the 5th, it needs some love, it needs some fun, it needs some pleasure. I'm wondering if this retrograde is about you realizing that you being home more with family, or you being home more by yourself because of the connection to the sun, and maybe like being home all the time and the same grind is like driving you crazy, or maybe something that's going on with the family is driving you crazy. It's trying to get you to work something out that may be like deeply embedded in you emotionally, that needs a release because it's so close to Uranus. I also feel like this may be a time where, you know, you need more playtime. You need more time for creative work. Yes, when Mercury is retrograde in the first house, we're a little tongue-tied. But that conjunction to the sun is about like you looking around and going like, yeah, my family's driving me crazy, or I have so much home improvement to do, or I'm having to take care of a parent, or, you know, kids are a handful, but I have these things, right? But I have a home, but I have things to be appreciative of. And it just might be a little difficult to appreciate some of this stuff at the moment. The fact that Mercury is in conjunction to you know, the sun also tells me that it's going to be about what you value. So there may be a sense of you looking around and going like, I really, really love this house, so I'm going to invest a little money into it. Or so we're going to, you know, put in a new swimming pool, or we're going to make some alterations to the space so we can stay a little bit longer because of the connection to the sun. I would just say, you know, take a little time, maybe go for a walk, spend some time in nature, try to calm the body down a little bit. You may find that you have a creative breakthrough, or that there is some breakthrough with something that's going on in regards to a matter of the heart. And if you really, you know, have been feeling like you need some space from a romantic partner, or if you've been needing space from the day-to-day grind, you know, going and being out in nature and giving yourself time to just be creative with no expectation. If you want to draw, if you want to dance, if you want to write some music or play an instrument, you may have a moment of just profound clarity, and it's just very creative, and it might be something that really needs to come through, and it might lead to like a bigger project that you end up kind of working on down the road. Okay. But yes, little stressful here because, you know, Pluto is still the focal point of this square between you and other people. So there's a lot of pressure in regards to the career, which can be also creating some strife between you and a client, you and a partner, you and a marital partner, because the pressure is on when it comes to some of this professional stuff right now. So let's see what the cards say. The card that you get is the Ace of Wands. Great card. New projects, inspiration, ignited passion, new opportunities, growth, new initiative, and enthusiasm, which are all of the things that I would anticipate because it's in your sign. So this is a good indication that there's some new life coming in. You're going to see that you're going to feel more inspired. Maybe you're going to be more excited about initiating something new that you're really passionate about. And that's so important when you have the fire, the element of fire, or the wands coming up, because it is about actually taking action. So if you felt like you're kind of like in limbo and you don't know what direction to go in, it looks like this Cazimi moment is going to give you your answer and help you with the process of just getting started, right? Good luck, Taurus. We've got Gemini and Gemini rising. What's going on, guys? You're going to have a sun Cazimi with Mercury in the natal 12th house. And obviously this is important because you are a messenger for Mercury. Mercury rules you, your body, and also your house, your home, and your family. And you're having this moment where Mercury is retrograding and coming into conjunction with the sun. Now, all of this energy in your 12th house, we've got an eclipse coming also that's going to be in your 6th house. Really watch your health, Gemini, okay? And it may not necessarily be physical, although Taurus is a physical sign. Eclipses that are taking place on these axes sometimes do bring up, like, you know, spiritual breakthroughs, emotional breakthroughs, psychic breakthroughs, but also breakdowns. And then there can be effects on the physical body, especially while the South Node is still going through the 6th house. Now, this Cazimi is literally about you going through an experience where maybe you either have a dream that's really, really symbolic, and you're like, wow, something totally makes sense. I need to write it all down. Definitely sleep with like a notepad or a journal or something. So as you wake up through the night, or if you have visions or breakthroughs or messages, even in meditation, you have a way of being able to note these things. I feel like it could also be about you having a secret conversation. So the sun rules your 3rd house of communication, ideas, and it's very creative. It can be about communicating with children, younger people, lovers, siblings, but having a secret conversation with somebody behind closed doors where there can be like an epiphany or a breakthrough. It could be a sibling, especially if you have a brother, or maybe an uncle, because the sun is masculine. It can also be a period where there is like a solar figure or a relative that just needs more rest and recuperation. So if a prominent family member or relative is not doing well, they need to go and see a doctor. Maybe they go into like see a specialist. They may go for a hospital stay. Obviously, we hope not, but that is possible in the 12th house. And you might get a phone call, or you might get word that, hey, somebody's not doing so hot, you know, call and check in on them. Or you may have a dream that tips you off to this. So when that event happens, you are prepared. Obviously, it's not going to play out like that for everyone. So I don't want you guys to like panic. But I definitely feel like with Mercury getting ready to come into conjunction to Uranus, there is some omen of getting ready to travel or going somewhere, or finding out that, you know, maybe a male roommate or a romantic partner that you live with is going to have to get on a plane and like go somewhere. So it can be about somebody that you're living with that has to kind of get up and go. So there may be conversations preemptively about that while this retrograde is happening in the 12th house. I love retrogrades in the 12th house. I feel like there's just so much that comes up subconsciously and in meditation or in therapy, or if you're looking to go and do some emotional healing, if you want to go and clear out like your attic or your closets because of Mercury's connection to the 4th house, that might be something that you also consider doing as well. But there's going to be effects from that. So, just from somebody who's used these retrogrades, because I know it's a good time to kind of clean up and organize. But I also know the effects that has. As silly as it sounds, like I wouldn't recommend doing this at night. You may find that just energetically there are some disturbances and some things that actually affect your ability to sleep. So I wouldn't say, don't go vacuuming and sweeping and doing a bunch of cleanup at nighttime. Like get up, do it during the daytime, wrap it up so that way you're not seeing some interferences with your sleep, because it can actually have an effect on you subconsciously. So let's take a look and let's see what the cards have to say. I wonder, are you going to be getting a reading, giving somebody a reading? Do you have a dream about somebody and call them and tell them what you saw? Something like that could happen as well. The card that I got for you is the Page of Swords. That might be the case, actually. So witty, communicative, curious, and alert. Thirst for knowledge, chatty, restlessness, inspired, or a messenger. So this is generally about a like younger or more curious or kind of fun or witty air sign. So it could be you as a Gemini, but it could be a Libra or an Aquarius as well. I do feel like this is about you learning to be more kind of tuned into your intuition and receiving messages and what you do with them. And maybe you're a little amused by some of the dreams and the things that you're having, and you're more curious and you're kind of breaking them down. And you may be more willing to give insight also to other people. So you may be the messenger actually for other people who are talking to you and sharing things with you, especially with that Sun conjunct Mercury. So it looks like you're going to get some really great insight, whether it's for you or for another person. Okay. Good luck, Gemini. We've got Cancer and Cancer rising. You'll be experiencing a Sun Mercury Cazimi in the sign of Taurus, and it will be in your natal 11th house. So this is a fun one because the 11th house is generally a positive house. Goals, wishes, friendships, associations, networks, and Mercury is the ruler of the 12th and the 3rd. I could see a lot of Cancer and Cancer risings, people who have had miscommunications with friends or had falling outs with friends, or if there's friends you haven't heard from for a while or vice versa, an opportunity to reconnect. And also, there can be people connecting with you that can help you get connected and bring in more positivity in regards to your finances or abundance, okay? So Mercury retrograde in general in the 11th can bring back friends from the past. Maybe you run into them at a party or while you're shopping, or somebody follows you on social media. And it's likely something you didn't see coming because of Mercury's connection to the 12th and the 3rd. But I think with the Cazimi aspect, it can be that you unexpectedly get a phone call, or you unexpectedly get a text, or somebody who follows up and they just want to kind of see how you're doing, or they say, hey, I've got a gig. Are you interested? I'm looking for somebody who can help me with this thing. Would you want to help me? And it may be a paying gig because of the Sun's involvement, and the Sun rules your 2nd house of money. What I also like about this is that all of this Taurus energy naturally sextiles your ascendant. So it's kind of like helping you feel more secure, more grounded, more emotionally safe. And maybe it's just a phone call that you get from somebody else that's like, I really love you. I hope you're doing okay. Haven't heard from you. Let's reconnect. And it might just be exactly what you needed or what somebody else needed to be able to kind of jumpstart a connection, right? The 11th house is also goals. So if there's a goal or a wish, especially a financial one that you have been wanting to, accomplish or complete, you might share that with a group of people. You might share that with a friend, and you might have a friend that's like, you know what, I know just the people to introduce you to. Don't worry, let me help you get connected. So I'm really loving the Mercury Sun connection, because there can be financial, gifts from the gods, or from, just angel investors or people who are feeling very generous and people who just want to help you feel secure and abundant. So if you've been looking for any assistance with that, that might help. Equally, I could see some of you guys who have been hiding out, not communicating with people. If you've been having a tough time, especially with Pluto's emergence into your 8th house and finally coming out of that Mars retrograde, some of you guys have been kind of under the radar for a little bit. So I could see some of you guys connecting with friends and letting them know where you've been, and friends being like, look, I love you, I'm here for you, you know, let's not stay disconnected, like, you know, what's going on, how can I help? So definitely connect with like-minded people throughout this transit. Pay attention to who reaches out to you, okay? It might be that, you know, you're scared to reach out to somebody who you kind of lost connection with, and I would say don't be afraid, send that message, make that phone call, and give people the opportunity to reach back out to you, and I think that you'll be surprised to see who is willing to kind of show up, okay? Let's take a look and let's see what the cards say for you, Cancer. The card that I got for you is the Page of Coins. Yes, Page of Coins. So manifestation, grounded, ambitious, offering, goal-oriented, financial opportunity, partners, loyal, faithful messengers. So once again, it's a good financial omen that somebody wants to either hook you up, make a connection, help you. And it's the beginning process because this is a page. So it could be somebody who's like, look, I know somebody who's interested, let me connect you, right? But it's the beginning process of helping you bring in more abundance. Obviously, you know, Mars is going into your 2nd house soon, so you're going to be in a really strong period opportunity to be able to make more money and bring more resources in on top of eclipses that have been taking place in your 10th house. Look for support that may come from a Virgo, Capricorn, or a Taurus. Either one of these, any of these 3 signs could potentially pop in and help you with this process. Good luck, Cancer. We've got Leo and Leo rising. You will be experiencing a Sun Mercury Cazimi in the sign of Taurus in your natal 10th house. Ooh, this is gonna be an interesting one. So we've got this connection happening in your career zone. That's what your 10th house is, your public reputation, recognition. So even if you're not working, it's gonna be about your responsibility out in the world, okay? It can also be about really significant news coming out in the office, or somebody relaying some kind of memo or some kind of announcement that's being made, right? You may be the one making this announcement because you are the sun. So the sun rules yourself, your body. Mercury rules money and resources. It also rules groups. And we see this conjunction where you may find out that so-and-so is leaving. Maybe you're up for their position. Maybe you're deciding that you're going to reevaluate whether or not you want to stay or if you want to retire. You might be telling people, hey, I took a new job, I'm leaving, or, you know, I'm you know, now launching my own thing. This is particularly fortuitous, I think, for Leo risings, because very soon Jupiter is going to go into this house and it's just going to blow everything up. So you might be like teasing something that you're getting ready to launch or that you're working on. It may be that you're kind of putting the final touches financially or like literally in terms of tech on a website or on a product. It might be that you're getting feedback on something before you get ready to launch it. And to me, it looks very positive. Now, Mercury has to do with 11th house of groups and associations. It also has to do with your 2nd house of money. So it's possible that something about your business is going to expand because of groups, or something about the company that you work for, the business that you work within, is about to announce, hey, there's a merger, right? Other people, or hey, you know, we are having some changes going on at work. We're going to be sending people to other departments, but don't worry. For the most part, it's pretty positive. A retrograde here can have you switching jobs, positions, can have you going back somewhere. Some people will get that phone call from that old boss that's like, everything's fallen apart since you've left. Will you come back? And you could be like, yeah, but you're going to pay me, you know, because of the Mercury-Sun conjunction. But it can also be this awareness that you don't have to go and work for somebody else, that you could do this for yourself. But all across the board, it's pretty positive. I think the only challenge here, to be honest with you, is that all through Taurus season, we're going to see this for Leo risings, because if you are a Leo rising and if you have any planets in Leo as a Leo rising, this is creating a grand fixed cross in your chart. So this retrograde and this eclipse that's coming in is just slamming your midheaven and your IC, and it's clearing out your home, your family, and your emotions. So some of you guys are moving, some of you guys are cutting off relatives, some of you guys are totally kind of cleaning house emotionally to really fully step up to the plate and show up for some of the big things that are happening in regards to your career. You're really going to see the next couple of months just some amazing things happen here as Jupiter comes into your 10th house. But it's challenging because Leo and Taurus, they don't resonate, not necessarily because you guys are fixed signs. It's because Taurus is 10 signs away from your ascendant. So it represents this Saturn energy. So it can also be this feeling of like, well, I'm waiting on, a raise, but it's based off of what my boss says, and they're going and checking and making sure that, they have the capabilities of being able to give me that, and is it in the budget, and I'm still waiting because the retrograde can indicate delays, but likely you're going to get some kind of feedback about whether or not a project's going to launch, if the money is going to be in the budget for something, and definitely a lot of negotiations in regards to your resources. Now, you'll see this again, Leo. You're going to see this right after your birthday when we have a Mercury retrograde that's going to be taking place in your 2nd house. So if it doesn't all happen now, know that when we get into like July through about September, October, those retrogrades are really going to be working hard in your 2nd house. And by then it's going to be trining Jupiter in your 10th house. So it's coming. Some of you guys may change jobs with this position within this particular conjunction. And it may be the awareness that's like, I need to do better than this. I am capable of so much more. So if that's how it manifests, don't worry about it. You guys still have lots of abundance that's coming through the chart. Let's take a look and see at what these cards have to say for you. Card that I get for you is the King of Cups. So many court cards today, huh? There's like lots of other people involved in this. Devoted, emotionally mature, balanced, intuitive, compassionate, supportive, and empathic. Generally, this represents water signs. So Cancers, Scorpios, and Pisces, people like this can pop in. That can be really helpful at this time. I think that it's about emotions, and it's hard not to when you have this Cazimi taking place, sextiling Saturn. And it may be that you have to make some decisions that are not necessarily super cerebral. They're more emotional. About whether or not you feel like, okay, I can stay here, but is it going to be good for me emotionally? Is this really emotionally fulfilling? And needing to make decisions that are going to be really honoring and, really listening and tuning into your emotional health, basically. Can there be water sign people or men that come in to help you? Sure, especially if you have a boss that happens to be a Pisces or a Cancer or a Scorpio, or somebody says, hey, somebody's going through some issues with their family, they lost somebody, they need to take time off, or they're taking, a period of time where they're going and working through what they need to work through, and they're taking a break. You may step up to the plate. So it could be somebody else that's going through something, and you're kind of the person that kind of fills in, or you're just getting more emotional support in regards to some of the decisions that you're going to be making about work. Okay? Good luck, Leo. We've got Virgo and Virgo rising. What's up, Virgo? This is important, right? Because Mercury rules your chart. And we've got the Sun Mercury Cazimi taking place in the natal 9th house. Now the 9th house, higher education, right? Your belief system, what you're learning, mentors, teachers, gurus, foreign travel, publishing. So this is important because it involves you. Mercury's retrograding in conjunction to the Sun. To me, this looks like a turning point. It looks like there's a change in faith. It looks like there's a change in belief systems for the better. It can be a wonderful time to be traveling, exploring, learning something new, taking courses, lessons about things that you want to learn more about, especially if they're very much connected to the arts or cultural stuff, or anything in regards to travel, philosophy, metaphysical, esoteric things. it's a wonderful time to get lost in another city, in a place that you don't know. You may be looking around saying to yourself, like, yeah, it's time for me to go on a vacation. That's kind of the feeling that I'm getting here. But if it's not, and if you don't have the capabilities of doing that, don't worry. I think it's just going to be about a total change in your belief system, a change of faith. And you may be adopting or integrating new teachings, spiritual or religious, in order to kind of help you deal with some of these changes that are happening right now and kind of keep the faith. It doesn't always have to be something that is religious. It could be as simple as being like, well, I'm learning more about spirituality, or I'm learning about yoga, or I'm learning about, like karmic studies and past lives because of that connection with the sun in the 12th house. Now, some of you are going to be looking into traveling to places you've never been. Some of you guys are going to be reconnecting and trying to talk to teachers, mentors, gurus, maybe getting in contact with some of your colleges and trying to get transcripts or documents. Some of you guys might need literal documents to be able to travel and go somewhere. So if you've been missing a visa, a passport, anything like that, to be able to go somewhere, you will likely find it. This can be the day where it kind of turns up. It might be in like the most unlikely place ever, and just in time for you to be able to go and get on with wherever you're going with your destination. Mercury also has connections to your 10th house. And so I can see this be a moment for some people being like, how can I create a life where I can travel and work? Or do I need to go back to school and learn new skills, or get, a degree, or finish my degree so I can make the headway that I want to be making when it comes to my career and my purpose out in the world? So there can be a sense of you like checking in with a counselor, talking to a mentor, talking to a teacher, and getting guidance from somebody about how to handle that educational crisis or how to handle that life crisis. What I think is interesting also, especially if you have any placements within these degrees, like that 9 to 12 degrees of Virgo, you're going to have trines. So it's going to be helping you really put your critical, very specific, kind of going through everything, eyes on a situation and be able to make sense of it and either give or receive advice. Am I missing anything for you? Just watch also for like where you're having doubts. Like I think sharing doubts with a teacher, mentor, a priest, a therapist can be really helpful, and they can talk to you a little bit about where some of the things that are coming up may feel unsettling or like a blind spot, but it's actually really helpful because it's about teaching you to have faith in some of the changes that you're going to be making in your life, okay? Let's take a look. Let's see what the cards say. The cards that I get for you is the 5 of Cups. Like I said, having faith. 5 of Cups can be regret, failure, grief, feeling abandoned, sadness, mourning, discontent. You don't want to get stuck here. That's the one thing I want to tell you, is you do not want to get stuck here. I think really the lesson in all of this is really asking yourself, okay, where is the silver lining, right? Like you might be feeling like you're really going through it, but what did I learn? What is the purpose? Why did this happen? And you may need some feedback on this, so you're not kind of stewing in your own emotions and in your own feelings. Keep in mind the Cazimi is very positive. So the fact that it's connecting to your 12th house Lord makes me feel like there is probably going to be a come to Jesus moment, or a moment where you need to go and yell and kick and scream and cuss at the sky and then be like, why? And then you get your answer. It'll become clear why something kind of had to fall apart or why something had to change. It's to teach you faith, but it's also to teach you that something is falling apart so something else can come in. So rather than looking at it as a crisis, it's about looking at it as an opportunity to kind of really make a shift in your philosophy or the way that you're looking at life. Watch for getting too emotional, watch for getting too stuck and unwilling to move forward. That's the one catch that can kind of come with this card, okay? Good luck, Virgo. We've got Libra and Libra rising. You are going to be experiencing the Sun, Mercury, Cazimi in the sign of Taurus in your natal 8th house. All right, so the 8th house, heavy house. Obviously, this deals with taxes, karmic entanglement, other people's resources, joint resources that you have, like spousal supports, child supports, joint resources like taxes, the money that you share with a business owner or with a spouse. Obviously, the 8th house also has darker connections. It can be about inheritances. It can be about psychological triggers, traumas, death, fear. Now, Mercury has connections to your 12th house of what's hidden and subconscious. It also has connections to the 9th house, which deals with travel and philosophy and learning. The positive of this transit is that I do feel like for you, Libra, the Mercury retrograde in the 8th house can have you going deeper into wanting to read and study and learn more about the occult, afterlife, death and reincarnation, like near-death experiences, anything in regards to the other side and what happens, and like learning about that because it's touching on the ruler of the 9th and the 12th. The more challenging aspect about this is it looks like there may be some miscommunications or some issues that you're having about resources or spending. There could be a tax document that wasn't filed appropriately or wasn't signed. You could be going back and forth with an insurance agent about whether or not a claim is going to be filed. There can be some back and forth also about insurance and getting refunds and getting money back about something relating to travel and some travel changes. And then, you know, the 8th house can be losses. And there can also be some issues that can come up sexually or with intimacy that you're having with another person, disagreements about budgeting and also spending money. What's interesting is bringing it back to the dispositor, you know, Venus. Venus is also your chart ruler, and Venus is in a square with Neptune. So it tells me that there's something that is not setting right in regards to like a schedule. There's something that's not setting right, or there's some visibility issues that you're having in regards to, you know, overscheduling or missing something, or something that's not kind of like coming together in terms of timing, right? That's really the big thing that's going on. Being a Libra rising myself, I can tell you wholeheartedly, this is, at least for me, it's bang on. I recently booked a flight, and then after I booked the flight, I get an email at like 6 in the morning that's like, oh, your flight changed, you know, blah, blah, blah. And it was for somebody else, but still. And then they immediately rescheduled another flight, and they give you the new itinerary because I didn't say anything. So then I go and look at it only to find out that what should have been like a 2-hour flight is now going to be like an 8-hour flight. Call the airlines, go back and forth with them, trying to get the refund. And they'll say something like, well, as long as it's short of 5 hours, you know, like we won't refund you. And of course, it's like extended like 4 hours and 45 minutes. Can't get the refund on the flight because technically it's within 5 hours, quite literally, right? So if you're like a Libra or Libra rising who's dealt with this, there could be another scheduling change, a work change, an office change. Be really mindful also of just health-related things when it comes to being able to meet traveling timelines, or timelines also revolving around education, and just overscheduling yourself, and whether or not there are things that are kind of overlapping and blind spots that you're having. And then the money that you owe somebody else or that somebody owes you. So if there is a sense of something else that's getting screwed up, or somebody wants a refund, and it's because of something that you overlooked, you may have to actually give something back, or you may be the one asking for the refund. All right, so let's take a look and see what it says. For you, Libra, what does the tarot have to say about this Cazimi? I guess I should also say one other thing is that this Cazimi can bring omens of death, or feelings that something is about to change, or that something is going to leave and it's not coming back because of the connection to the 8th house. Okay, obviously touch wood, but got to put that out there. Issues also with like inheritance stuff can come up too. Okay, the card that I get for you is the Moon, and the Moon at the time is going to be in your 12th house, in opposition to Neptune, square Venus. So you may also be feeling kind of squirrely, right? Having all those planets in your 8th house where you're going through a change and a transformation, and then having the Moon go through the 12th house, you're like, leave me alone. The Moon deals with illusions, what's hidden, subconscious, unseen, unknown, fears, trusting intuition, uncertainty, confusion. You know, the Mercury retrograde in the 8th house is about being able to touch on all the things that you don't want to talk about, stuff that is, you know, painful or scary, or things that are changing and you don't know how to cope with some of that change. So my advice is with the moon is to lean into these 12th house transits. You know, the day before when the moon is going through Virgo and it's in your 12th house, you might have some dreams, or you might need to kind of be by yourself for a little bit and you're feeling a little overwhelmed. There can be some things that are coming up subconsciously that are triggering some fears or some reactions that kind of need to come up, and conversations that need to be had. Okay? Good luck, Libra. All right, we've got Scorpio and Scorpio rising. You're going to be having a Sun Mercury Cazimi taking place in your natal 7th house of relationships. So this is in your opposite sign. And the Cazimi is going to be between Mercury and the Sun. Mercury deals with your 11th house of friendships, goals, networking, things in regards to groups and other people. And it also deals with your 8th house, which is about joint resources and anything in regards to intimacy, fears, working through things, exchanges. So specifically, the Cazimi happening in the 7th house represents like a really interesting opportunity to have a conversation or a communication with another person. Mercury going retrograde through here is probably for the last few weeks created some issues in how you communicate with other people, and feeling like other people are kind of hot and cold, or they're back and forth. Yes, some of you guys with the Mercury retrograde in your 7th, you've had people from the past come back. But there's also been a lot of referencing the past or referencing something in regards to issues in relationships. And that can be, problems with clients, going back and forth with people who might owe you money, going back and forth with romantic partners or spouses about some kind of trauma or fear or something scary that's been going on that is really pressing them to open up and communicate and be more vulnerable with you, especially when it comes to their goals and what you guys could potentially achieve together. Now, some of you guys have had like clients come back, friends come back, and there's been some back and forth with these people as well. It's only challenging really because it's been in opposition to your sign. So if you're a Scorpio sun or you're a Scorpio rising, you're having to deal with other people that are changing direction. Now, in the midst of all of this energy is also all been in a square to Pluto. And that's important because Pluto is your chart ruler. So it seems like lots of the friction that's going on between you and another person is coming from, reluctance to want to change emotionally on your behalf, reluctance to want to change your home, some family or home dynamics that are very challenging, or unwilling to move or unwilling to let go of the past. And that's been squaring all of these positions. So if you're a Scorpio rising that's been having conflict with family for the last few weeks, or if you've been fighting with a partner for the last few weeks, buckle up, because this particular conjunction is going to be like that turning point, and it's going to be the moment where you're going to kind of start to understand why there's been a problem. They may really come forward and tell you what they really think or how they're really feeling. The conjunction also to the 10th house, Lord, the sun. For some of you, it has nothing to do with relationships. It's like somebody who you used to work with that you may come back to you and say, hey, can we work together again? It might mean that you went through like a job interview and you're waiting to kind of get hired by somebody and they finally come back. These are the positive ways. But for a relationship, it's a little bit more tricky because it can be that turning point where if you have been in a committed relationship and there's problems in the relationship, the Mercury Sun conjunction is literally a partner saying to you, I want to change something about our dynamic. So it might be, I don't want to be in a committed public relationship. I want space, or, I want to separate, or I don't want to work with you anymore. If you're in a business partnership. So there's going to be something that's going to happen here. So you have to look at what's happened over the last few weeks. And if you've been waiting to get like a proposal agreed to, if you've been waiting to have a client agree to something, they may come back and finally agree to something. What's working in your favor is the fact that this is all sextiling Saturn. So really, if you truly love something or someone, the relationship, can work out. You can work through the miscommunications, like, something can prevail. But to be honest with you, the sun in the 7th house and the sun being ruler of the 10th house, a lot of what plays out is going to be more about what other people decide. And other people are making decisions right now based off of how you're responding to things emotionally and where you are or are not flexible emotionally or within your home. And if you're not willing to do that work, you're going to see some real problems here where partners are going to start saying, well, you know, if you don't want to make the change, I'm out. Or if you're not willing to relocate, you know, we can't offer you the position. So really look at where you're being a little reluctant to change, and maybe where the past is actually kind of coming back and creating some problems in the current relationship situation. Now, the good news is Jupiter will be there soon, so that can really enhance and bring opportunities for more pleasant time in relationships. But if something's a problem, Scorpio, make it bigger, because over the summer, when Venus goes retrograde in your 10th, a lot of people who are having problems now will ultimately, I think, separate. And it can be very public and it can be very messy over the summertime, especially if it's somebody that you work with. So if it's a professional relationship or if you're married, some of the problems that are coming up now will be much more difficult then. The card that I get is the Devil. So toxic energies, obsessions, attachments, addiction, oppression, abuse, shadow self, materialism, greed, and envy. So this is a card that comes up that's a Saturn-based card. So it's about feeling stuck. It's about feeling limited, not knowing what direction to go in. Obviously, you know, this is pertaining to the Sun-Mercury conjunction. So there can be a situation where somebody is saying to you, like, I want this, but I don't want that. And like, they may have a sense of going back and forth and saying that they want one thing and then doing another. And the Devil card coming up is essentially saying it's a pattern that needs to be broken. So it needs to be something that is no longer repeating itself. It needs to be something that's either hashed out, worked out, and corrected. Otherwise, it's going to keep repeating, and it's going to end up being something that's going to kind of keep you or the other person stuck. In that case, because of the connection to Saturn, I would say look at the 5th house. And where it's saying, like, if you really truly love something or someone, you're going to be doing the work that you need to work through it. But Saturn's moving through the 5th house, which means you have to focus on loving yourself. You have to do the inner child work. There needs to be a sense of commitment, also to staying connected in the relationship and continuing to really focus on bringing like romance and the willingness to do the work in the relationship to keep the relationship vital. Good luck, Scorpio. We've got Sag and Sag rising. And you're going to be having a Sun Mercury Cazimi in the sign of Taurus in your natal 6th house. So the 6th house deals with health, daily routine, pets, coworkers, you know, working out, what you're eating, your fitness, your habits, all that fun stuff. The 6th house is like the busy house. It's all the to-do stuff that you need to do. And the Cazimi is going to be picking up energy from your 7th house of relationships and your 10th house of career. So we've got like responsibilities and other people in the 6th house. So this tells me that with the Cazimi, this is going to be about an opportunity for you to reorganize something about your office space, your schedule, people who you're working with. And I think you're doing this because you want to, number one, feel like you're more productive or feel like you're having a healthier schedule. Number two, you might be doing it because you're learning that you need to ask other people for help, or you need to ask like coworkers or other people to pick up shifts or work with you, or to kind of help pitch in to like make the changes you want to make. And equally, you're wanting to make some professional changes as well. Interestingly enough, you're going to see a Mercury retrograde here at the end of summer. So I'm seeing a lot of like Sag risings with the eclipses in the 6th and Jupiter going into the 6th. Some of you guys are going to be starting new businesses, or you're going to be trying to adopt new health or fitness schedules, and you want like work to work around your new lifestyle now that you're focusing so much on your health. So the feeling that I'm getting here is like, you know, the Cazimi can give you an opportunity to go, okay, you know, what can I learn about my daily routine? What can I learn about productivity? The Sun rules the 9th house of education and travel. You want to watch with this conjunction that it can bring a reconnection to a mentor, a reconnection to a teacher. You may need to talk to somebody who can legally process documents or paperwork for you. There can be some process that you're having to go through to like make your business legitimate, to, you know, be able to be on track to kind of launch things if that's what you're hoping to do later in the spring going into the summer. This might be a time where you have a breakthrough about a pattern or a habit. With Mercury being connected to the 10th house, maybe you realize that, you know, you're so fixated on like running and managing everything that it's like wearing you down mentally or wearing down your health. You can get some really prominent advice in regards to, you know, hiring and training and productivity when it comes to your business if you're a business owner. It can be a time also where if something has been going south with your health, or if like a pet goes missing, or if you're having an issue with a pet, or you're having an issue with a coworker, something turns around because the sun is very positive because it rules the 9th house. Trying to think what else. Scheduling issues can happen with travel. That's definitely possible because of the connection with the Mercury retrograde. And you may find that, you know, there was like a delay, or there's some kind of like a hiccup, or there's something that comes up with work that you needed to complete before you like go on a trip somewhere. And you're kind of running around trying to get it done, and you're able to kind of find the time and you rearrange your schedule to make that happen. But this is also, I think, going to be about, once again, paving the way to start setting work or your career life up to revolve around this new lifestyle that you're creating for yourself. You may find that you have a breakthrough and you become aware of a bad habit or a health problem, like I said, and you're able to get some assistance and figure out what's wrong and how to take care of it, because the connection to Mercury in the 7th house can be, you know, a healthcare practitioner, an herbalist, a holistic, like health specialist, anybody like that who can give you like a remedy, or they can kind of help you through that health related issue. If you're feeling like you're overwhelmed and you're stressed out and you need a day off of work to just like recuperate, really listen to your body with this transit, because there can be a sense of being shown where there is some impending health problems that are coming, that is from like stress or like lack of sleep or other things that are going on emotionally with that eclipse that you're getting ready to have in your 12th house around the 5th, okay? Also, if you're looking to hire somebody, if you like need an assistant, or if you need somebody to help you like start organizing your office, or, you know, working the books, or doing anything like that for you, like promoting or doing like media, this can be a day where somebody shows up. The card that I got for you is the Knight of Cups. Creativity, romance, charming, imagination, an idealist, diplomatic, mediator, negotiator, tactful. I like this. I like this because of the connection to Mercury, and I feel like whether you're just wanting to be the face of your brand, or you're wanting to focus on relationships with some of your coworkers, your employees, if you're looking for somebody to do PR for you, right? Like, you're gonna be able to handle everything like beautifully, or you're gonna be able to find somebody who can help you do that. Generally, the cups can be either a Pisces, Cancer, or a Scorpio, so one of these people can pop in that can kind of help you. But generally, knights are messengers, so it's basically saying like things are gonna become more harmonious in your daily routine with your coworkers, with your health. You're gonna find that there's gonna be more peace, like there's gonna be an opportunity to get everything more so organized. Remember that this Sabian symbol in particular is like talking about what is possible, but less is more, right? Like not having to feel like you have to spend all the money or have all the bells and whistles. So it may just be a day where instead of feeling like you need to run around and buy things or pay for things or have other people do it, you might have a partner that says like, I've got exactly what you need. Let me handle it. Like, let me pick up your dry cleaning, or you don't need to take your car to go and get it cleaned, or, you know, what have you. I'll do it for you. So let other people help you. Right? Other people are going to be offering you a helping hand, so that way you don't feel like you're doing everything by yourself. Okay? Good luck, Sag. We've got Capricorn and Capricorn rising. And you're going to be having a Sun Mercury Cazimi taking place in your 5th house of Taurus. And this is a sister sign. So if you're a Capricorn rising with anything between like 9 and 12 degrees, you'll be experiencing a trine to your 5th house. Now, Mercury rules your 9th house of foreign travel, culture, philosophy, belief, education. It also rules your 6th house of organization, health, and coworkers, and scheduling, and habits. And we're having the Cazimi here in your 5th. So for starters, this can be a really interesting transit where there is like some really significant breakthrough creatively or with your love life, or just like a major stroke of luck, because you have the connection to your 8th house, and the 5th house is like what you love. So it can be about bringing in more love, more fun, more joy, more romance, more creativity, more opportunity, and just like I said, a total change of your luck. This can also be a moment where there is an awareness of the heart. So the heart's going to be speaking pretty loudly, telling you what it wants, what it needs, what it loves. Obviously a Mercury retrograde here. Some of you guys have had some miscommunications with lovers, or trying to find your way back to a creative project, or trying to find a hobby that you enjoy doing. Some of you guys have been trying to get pregnant. This Cazimi can be an indication of pregnancy. With Jupiter coming in here as well over the springtime, that can also be an indication of pregnancy. It'll be there all year. And then you're going to have an eclipse here right around the end of October. So if you're thinking about doing that, this can be like the moment where you're like, maybe I do want to have another kid, or like maybe I want to try. It can also be a time where you're thinking about whether or not you want to invest money into a hobby that might include publishing or teaching or traveling. It would be a good time to start looking at a budget for realistically what you could spend if you wanted to travel, and if you wanted to include a romantic partner or a younger person. But for the most part, I think that this is just going to be like a real significant shift when it comes to the heart space. And I'm really loving throughout this whole Mercury retrograde, the sextiles to Saturn. I think that's really important for you, being that you're ruled by Saturn. So it's going to give you the opportunity to communicate and tell people, you know, I love you, or I want this, or I want to be together, or I want to, you know, work on this business together. And so it's all about being able to really express your emotions and find a way to find the words to communicate with other people a little bit better. In the 5th house, I also feel like this is an opportunity for you to feel like maybe your philosophy about creativity and self-expression is changing. Maybe you're learning how to have fun. Maybe you're learning how to enjoy your free time. Maybe you're thinking about, like I said, planning a trip or going somewhere that you can enjoy and like really take time to kind of unwind. What else? So the connections to your 8th house, your 9th house, and then Mercury being connected to your 6th house. I think it's about finding the time. You know, finding the time to say, I'm going to commit more to dating, or I'm going to commit more to going out and having fun, or I'm going to commit to these hobbies and see what happens, and if something could potentially take off. Because, you know, some of you guys with Jupiter coming in over the next year, you'll have an opportunity to take what can be something that you do for pleasure, could be gambling, could be investing, it could be some artistic pursuit, and like really make it into something that could be lucrative. And you'll see this even more so as we get later into the year, but everything is going to be based off of what you are most passionate about. So if you've been feeling like you've been losing that passion and you're not really in love with something anymore, this might be the moment where you kind of really find what brings all that emotion and passion back, right? Let's take a look and let's see what the cards say. The card that I get for you is the 7 of Cups. This is a fun card. Choices, clouded judgment, many options, opportunities, wishful thinking, searching for purpose, indecision. Sounds about right. You know, for you guys, I think that this is really kind of saying, like, throughout the retrograde, there's a lot of maybe throwing things at the wall and seeing what sticks. And kind of being like, well, I'll try this and I'll try that and I'll try this. And if I like it, great. And if it sticks, awesome. But like, you know, you got to give yourself an opportunity to kind of sample all of the things. And whether it's like dating, or it's just hobbies, or it's just trying to figure out what to do with your free time, or what to do with a situation involving a romantic partner or a child, you need to give yourself plenty of space to be able to have options. A retrograde is when we reorganize things. It's like we throw everything out on the table and then we go, okay, we're gonna try it this way. That didn't work. We're gonna try it this way. Okay, I like that better. So I'm wondering if this is about, with the 7 of Cups, having so many choices that you're going to be narrowing down the options throughout this retrograde. And the Cazimi moment might be where you're like, that is the thing. That's the thing that I love, or that's the stock that I'm going to invest in, or, you know, this is going to be my next big venture. Pay attention for that. Obviously, it's all, like I said, going to come from the heart space. And it's hard with this card not to get overwhelmed with all the options, but I would say in this situation, you really do need them. And I would give yourself really until more or less, I mean, you'll get your message at the beginning of May, but I think it won't be really until, you know, the beginning of June, right? The end of May, beginning of June, when you're really going to be like, okay, now I have it figured out. Give yourself some time. All right. So now we've got Aquarius and Aquarius rising. And we are going to be seeing a Sun Mercury Cazimi in the sign of Taurus in your natal 4th house of home and family. So this is a little wonky, as it is for every one of the fixed signs. So we've got the Sun and Mercury coming into conjunction. Mercury is the ruler of your 8th house of change, transformation, joint resources, and the 5th house, which deals with children, love, creativity, lovers, self-expression. So one way that I could see this manifesting with the Sun Mercury Cazimi is some very insightful conversation that you're having where you're either confronting a roommate, a family member, or a child about a living situation and a financial situation. So it's going to be different for everyone. But if you happen to live with a child and there's some back and forth and you're like, look, this isn't working, or, you know, you need to be contributing because of the connection to your 8th house, where you're like, you need to be paying rent, or, you know, it's time for you to fly. That might be a conversation you have. It may also be a time where you're going back and forth and you finally kind of like realize whether or not you want to live in a certain place, whether or not you want to live with a certain person. The Sun has its connections to your 7th house of others. So I could see this being like a back and forth that you're having with somebody that you live with, whether it's like a roommate or a spouse or a romantic partner. That Cazimi is going to be an insightful conversation you're going to have with another person, possibly about your love life or your children. So if you're married and you live with your kids, with your spouse, you guys will be talking about this, I'm sure. Maybe it's about, you know, what house is best for us? Do we move? Do we stay here? What's going to be best for our family? For those of you guys who are on the move, because you see that there's been lots of squares between Pluto in your sign and planets in Taurus, some of you guys have been focusing on moving away from home. Now this is kind of the aftermath of the conversation you're having with family and relatives post-moving. So it really depends. I also think that, you know, Mercury's connection to the 8th house is about change. So whether this is changes in your living situation, changes in your emotions, changes in your finances, obviously it can be also about, you know, reconnecting with family members or children and having to talk to them about changes that are happening on the home front. Hey, we're selling our house, we're relocating, or hey, you know, so, you know, grandma's not doing so well, you know, you need to come home and see her. Because this has connections to the 4th and the 8th house, there are some heavier topics like end of life, like saying goodbye to something or someone that may potentially come up. For some of you, it might just be that you're at your wit's end and you're like, no, it's just I'm done, you know, footing the bill for things for the family, and I'm finally having that conversation with my partner or my kids or my roommate, right? Watch though, because like I said, all month long, you know, in the midst of this transit through Taurus, we are seeing the nodes move to the square with Pluto. And I know a lot of you guys are feeling the pressure because Pluto's in your sign and you're looking at things going like, I'm just going to explode, because you're not dealing well with the fact that there is some chaos going on at home, or, you know, there is some kind of like, you know, situation that's just driving you batty. But the silver lining is that you may have a counselor, a therapist, a spouse, somebody who supports you, that comes in and is like, dude, not your circus, not your monkeys. Like, no need to totally freak out over what's going on. You know, I support you, but I'm also going to tell you that you need to stand up to some of these situations that are going on, or, you know, I can't be around. So there can be some friction between romantic partners and also home or children, where you're put in a position where you have to say something because you're really focusing on supporting another person. I could see some people like having interventions with family members during this transit. I could see some people who are needing mediators between them and a spouse, or them and other family members in regards to estate issues. So like I said, it really depends. But look for somebody who can kind of come in to help kind of keep the peace. So the pressure is not all on you throughout this transit. And when in doubt, ask for help, ask for feedback, you know, get somebody else's opinion, talk to somebody who's a non-biased third party, who's going to be able to kind of tell it like it is, to really help you find a way to better kind of connect and communicate with whatever is going on within the home or family front. Okay. And also, if you've been looking to buy a home, sell a home, because the 7th is your marketplace, that might be the day where you're like, we found the place, or we got an offer. So it can be positive. It doesn't have to be negative. Let's take a look and see what the cards say. Get the Knight of Swords. There's been so many court cards. It's just so mercurial. So this could be a Gemini or an Aquarius, or this could be you. It could be a Libra. But this is about news coming fast. So ambitious, fast thinking, success, assertive, direct, impatient, intellectual, focused, and driven. So knights are dedicated to their cause. They rush into battle. Knight of Swords is about, yes, let's sign the contract. Let's agree. Let's get this going. Let's get this, on paper. But it can also be heated exchanges that you're having with another person, where there can be some combativeness, which I do feel like is possible because of the connection to the sun. So if you do feel like that's kind of coming, and it's coming quickly, first of all, they shouldn't be doing that with the squares to Pluto in your sign, because you're changing, you're going through so many shifts that you're going to start standing up for yourself, or you might lash out a little bit, or you might, be a little explosive. So it's not smart. And I think maybe this card is coming up just so you can kind of let people know, like, this isn't going to fly. Like, I'm not going to have this dynamic. We're not going to argue. We're not going to fight, or we're not going to have this tension, or like, this is the end of this kind of behavior, that it's not going to be tolerated. Remember that swords are here to draw a line in the sand. It's about defending yourself if need be, but it's also about letting people know where the boundary is. So I think throughout this particular Cazimi, somebody's going to be encouraging you to communicate differently and stand up for yourself, and do it in a way where it doesn't have to be confrontational. It's just letting people know you're changing, right? Good luck, Aquarius. Finally, we have Pisces and Pisces rising. You'll be experiencing a Sun Mercury Cazimi in the sign of Taurus in your natal 3rd house of communication, siblings, cars, vehicles, gadgets, all that fun stuff. And Mercury is the ruler of your 7th house of relationships and your 4th house of home and family, or the past. In some certain situations, this will play out a couple different ways. So it could be that the silver lining is that you receive some, helpful assistance, because the sun rules your 6th, from a neighbor, from a sibling, from a relative. They call you and say, hey, I'll help you with, moving, or whatever it is that you've got going on. Oh, you need a ride? Your car's in the shop? Okay, great. I've got you, right? That could happen. Because remember, this is positive with the Sun Mercury. I think you might get good news. So you might get an email or a phone call or a text message from somebody that's letting you know, hey, I got the job, or, I got a new pet, or, my health situation cleared up. Because like I said, this is a positive conjunction. Another way that this could play out is with the connection to the 4th house and the sun, is that you realize, okay, I am going to be moving, or I am getting the car. It is moving forward. I just need a little, assistance in like getting there. So maybe you organize the movers, or maybe you have a phone call with work and you change your schedule and like make it possible, so that way you can, leave work early and go pick up a new vehicle, or you can, take the day off so you have a couple days to like move. Mercury is very happy in the 3rd house. It functions well there. I think that there is also an opportunity to get feedback from other people. The sun rules like assistants and, people who are going to help clean things up and organize things. So if you're like getting ready to publish a book, put out a website, create a podcast, this might be the moment where, if you've been working with somebody who's helping kind of perfect it and put it together, you're starting to see the pieces come together, and you're seeing that it's like a complete project because somebody's edited it, or they've gone through and corrected things, or they've done all like the tweaks that need to happen before you get ready to release this project out into the world. Pretty soon, your chart ruler, Jupiter, is going to go into your 3rd house. And I know a lot of Pisces risings have been like waiting to move, buy a car, launch a YouTube channel, launch a podcast, maybe write a book, start traveling. So this Cazimi tells me that you're getting everything in order that needs to get done before kind of embarking on these new projects. And I think you're going to get some positive feedback, and where there's been some delays, you're going to see that there was a purpose for the delays. And that's because things were actually being perfected and kind of worked out. Part of it's because the retrograde, part of it's because the Cazimi, if you had a car that had a car issue, if you had a laptop or a gadget that was broken, and you took it into the shop to go and have it fixed or worked on, you may get a phone call and they might go, well, we figured out what's wrong with your car. We've found the part that's broken, and good news, we can fix it. And this is, obviously what it's going to cost, but this is how long it's going to take. So sometimes taking things apart is the 3rd house. Same thing with other gadgets. So if there's something like that going on, you know, if you guys think that the laptop is shot, or the computer or the car is like completely broken down, you might get good news that it's possible to still possess it. It might cost to fix it, and there may need to be an extra part that you're going to be bringing in. Watch for communication from other people. So, you know, the third house might be a text message, phone call, something like that, that you get from an old client or an old romantic partner, an old boyfriend or girlfriend, and they reconnect with you in some way. Likely it might be to like really hash things out or complete a breakup or finally say, okay, we're good, and like make amends, and really kind of, complete some of that stuff if necessary. Anytime you see any Mercury contact, it's going to bring something in regards to either relationships or family front and center because of its connection to these two houses. Now, if you've been thinking about moving, or if there's been some miscommunications going on with siblings, you might be able to finally kind of hash some of this stuff out, and make amends and be able to have like a much more positive, you know, productive conversation, especially considering this is going to sextile your sign and also Saturn. So it's telling me that there's like a sense of maturity that's coming through some of your transits now, and you're learning how to communicate differently, and you're kind of moving through things much more differently than you have in the past. And instead of avoiding communicating and telling people what you think, you've been really sitting and marinating on some stuff that's been going on before you decide to have a conversation and tell somebody else what your feelings are. Let's take a look and see what the cards have to say for you, my Pisces. Oh, the card that I get is the King of Cups. He makes another reappearance. This is you, by the way. Devoted, emotionally mature, balanced, supportive, compassionate, empathic, and intuitive. So this generally comes up for my Cancer, Scorpio, or Pisces. I love this for you because I really feel like it is about really listening and learning how to respond in a much more mature way emotionally. Yes, a retrograde can have you kind of tongue-tied and not sure if you say something or send the email or write the letter, but I think ultimately this Cazimi might be that moment where you have finally figured out how to have the conversation. You've put all of the words together. You're really ready to sit down and say what you have to say, or get ready to propose something. And you've really thought it through, especially on an emotional level. So maybe it's just taken you some time to really kind of put this together and let it marinate long enough so you really feel like whatever you say or whatever you put out there is going to be well received, and that it's also really emotionally mature. Yes, friends can come for help. Also, other water signs can kind of pop in and help you. So if it happens to be a Scorpio or a Cancer that comes in that you have a conversation with to help bring you clarity, it's super helpful. All right, guys. Well, I hope it's a good one for you. Obviously, this one's a little early, but I wanted to put it out there so that way, you know, you guys can kind of make sense as to why maybe there's been so much weirdness with this retrograde. I want you guys to really think about what is it you really need, okay? And this can be physically, this can be emotionally, going into, you know, the next couple of weeks before we have bigger energies with eclipses and some squares and other things at the end of May. This is going to give you the opportunity to get all of your all of your values in check before we have some of these crazy things going on with the universe. So let me know, are you having these retrogrades over your personal planets? Is it your birthday the first couple days of May? If it is, then this is going to be, like I said, really deeply ingrained in your solar return chart, rethinking something, and that's really important. So you might want to take a look at your birthday chart. If you guys want to book a reading with me, I'm always happy to see new clients. I've got openings starting in July and August. You can go to my website below at beyondtheveiltarot.com. I do live sessions for full or half hours with clients. I also offer reports and much, much more. All of my sessions are a combination of tarot, what I see astrologically and clairvoyantly, working with the Sabian symbols. You guys can also catch me here on Fridays. I'm always doing readings on Friday nights, 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern. We alternate and we do tarot or astrology. We will be back this Friday. We're going to be doing tarot readings, so you guys can sign up for that later this week. And we've got horoscopes coming on Thursday, so I'm working on that for you guys now. It's hard to believe it's almost May, and you guys are definitely going to want to watch the May horoscopes with some of the eclipse and also the energies at the end of the month. So stay tuned for that. Make sure you guys give me a thumbs up. As always, I appreciate your likes, comments, shares, and subscriptions. Please do consider sharing this with other people who want to know more about what's going on in the cosmos. And I'm always happy to hear your guys' comments. All right, that's it for me. Enjoy the Cazimi, and I will see all of you guys back here on Thursday. Take care.